Last week we started a little series on decision making, and we're focusing on this even though the entire academic year is devoted to wisdom and therefore to decision making. The idea here about the wisdom of God is that you are not a passive spectator or observer to your life. You are, in fact, a decision maker. And God has given you the power to take hold of things in your life and to change direction in your life and to hold fast to the direction that He has given to you in those moments where that steadfastness is called for. So we're talking in these 3 weeks here in November specifically about decision making and how decision-making and wisdom work together. We're calling this squinting in the fog because, as we said last week, the future is often shrouded in fog. It's uncertain. There's more things that we don't know about the future than things we do know. And yet, God has called us to make decisions about all of those things and to take the responsibility that He has given to us for shaping the course of our life. This morning, I want to ask a slightly different question or focus on a slightly different issue. What if the fog isn't in the future only? What if the fog is actually inside of us? What if we don't really know ourselves very well? How can you make decisions if your own motivations, your own reasons for making decisions are clouded, obscure to you? What if it's difficult for you to look inside yourself and say, this is what I want, this is my purpose, this is my goal? What if you look inside yourself and all you see is a misty, obscure bunch of shapes that you can't quite make out that constitute your motivations for making the decisions that you make? We look into ourselves and we see a big mystery. So here's my proposition to you this morning, that in our society, we're living in a fantasy world about our own motivations. And because of this, our decision-making is unwise, foolhardy, and frequently evil. Because we look into ourselves and there is a fog there about what we're really doing, what we're really pursuing. And so let me introduce you to a term that's been around for probably 30 years now. It was coined back in the 90s. It was coined about a particular politician. Serial sincerity. This phrase describes a person who means what they say at the moment that they say it. And then in the next moment, when they say something else, they mean that too, just as sincerely. So when they contradict themselves, when they change their stories, they're completely sincere in their contradictions and their change of the story of what happened. When they break their promises and they tell you, here are all the reasons why I can't hold my promise to you and can't fulfill that, they're completely sincere about that. And so there's this thing about serial sincerity. You can't really charge somebody with lying because they've got this puppy dog believability about everything that they say. They believe everything that they say in the moment that they say it. How do we explain this? Let me give you my own crackpot theory. This is my crazy notion about what's going on in our society, and so you can't put this on the level with like biblical truth. This is something you can take it or leave it whatever you want to do with it. As a pastor, working with people for the last 30 years, here's what I think is going on in our society. I think a lot of us don't really know who we are. I think we don't know where we really come from. We don't know the legacy we've inherited. We don't have a strong identity. And we're in a society where our whole culture is basically saying, create yourself. Create your own identity. Shape your own personhood. Take all of that authenticity that's deep down there and bring it out for all the rest of us to see. And as you shape yourself and as you create yourself, then all of this good is going to come out of your life. And people are trying to live this way. They're trying to live by creating themselves day in, day out. And so you find people trying on these different identities. I'm going to try on this for a while, and I'm going to work with this for a while. And so what are some of the sources of this? Well, pop psychology is a great source of identities and a great source of understanding about who you are and how you're changing. And back in the 90s when they invented this phrase, serial sincerity, the pop psychology concept was codependency. That was what everybody was talking about. And, codependency is a real thing. It's a thing that explains a great deal about drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and the dynamic that it launches in a family. Codependency is a genuine thing. But by the time pop psychology gets done with it, codependency now explains everything from marriage breakup to business failure to quantum physics, and you can explain everything by codependency. Now, the pop psychological concept is trauma. Trauma is a real thing. Trauma is not something to dismiss. It affects people's lives. It affects the way they learn. It affects their relationships. It affects the way they proceed in life and make decisions. But by the time pop psychology gets done with something like trauma, it's kind of a dumbed down, generalized, trivializing concept where every disagreement you have with somebody is traumatic, when in actuality, maybe it's just dramatic. And so there's this problem we have in incorporating a lot of self-help concepts in shaping who we are. They kind of tell us what to say and what our motivations are, and they kind of supply us with rationalizations for why we do things. So you find people trying on these different explanations for why they do the things they do. And one explanation shifts to another one, and another one, and another one, and this person in formation is just giving you serial, sincere answers to why they do the things that they do. So my crackpot theory is that if you take a mass of people who do not know who they are, and you immerse them in media 24/7. And you immerse them in videos on TikTok and podcasts, and you immerse them in short notifications of news items, and you immerse them in music and songs, and day in, day out. There's all of this stuff coming in. Then I think what you get is a mass of people who don't know who they are, but the media tells them how to deliver their lines. They've got lots of things to say. They've got great delivery. We've got lots of concepts to help us rationalize what we do, but there's no there. Deep down, there's no solid ground inside of us to really say, this is me, this is who I am, and this is what I am doing. The self is just under constant reinvention. And so I would say one of the things we're facing as we come to the book of Proverbs and the issue of decision making is the rootless American soul. It has no depth, no source of nourishment. It's just adrift, and it's constantly morphing and changing itself to suit its environment. You can do with that what you want, but that's just a way of explaining this phenomenon of looking into ourselves and seeing a fog, not really understanding why we do what we do. And in order to make good decisions, you not only have to look at the life around you and make clear decisions about that, you have to be able to look into yourself and say, this is who I am, this is what I've done, this is where I'm headed, and I need to make decisions about this. So our premise, again, is you're not a passive observer to your life, you're a decision maker. You have agency. And the book of Proverbs is given to us so that you can know yourself and know the life that you're living. So that you can know yourself and the God who gave you life and gives you direction in life. So that you can know yourself and the path that you are taking into the future. So let's look at a very unwelcome, harsh blast of reality from the book of Proverbs. To our society that has a fantasy about ourselves, that we can reinvent ourselves every day and just kind of morph a little bit and adapt and not ever be able to really pin down why we do what we do. Free people. In that fantasy, the book of Proverbs comes at us, and in chapter 30, verses 32 and 33, it says this: if you have been foolish, exalting yourself, or if you have been devising evil, put your hand on your mouth. For pressing milk produces curds, pressing the nose produces blood, and pressing anger produces strife. Reality. A blast of hot wind that hits us, and pray God, it wakes us out of our fantasies and delivers us into a life that has some substance and some reality to it. Let's unpack these verses. Let's begin with the word foolish. If you have been foolish, exalting yourself, then put your hand on your mouth. So, folly in Proverbs is a constant theme. It's right from the very beginning of the book all the way through to the end. And here in chapter 30, we're very close to the end of Proverbs. The fool in Proverbs is not a neutral character. The fool in Proverbs is not a ne'er-do-well, a stumble-bum who just can't seem to get things right. The fool is a creature of habit. And those habits are habits of denying wisdom, rejecting it, ignoring it in favor of impulse, pleasure, anger, self-righteousness, whatever it may be. The fool is locked inside his own head or her own head and operates exclusively from the world of his or her fantasies about life. So the fool in Proverbs is not a neutral character. It's a character who's made decisions, and the consequences of those decisions keep compiling, and the fool just never seems to get it. So the fool in Proverbs is all of us. We are all in this place of saying, I've made some decisions back here and they're just not the right ones. And I've got to make different ones. Or I'm going to face deeper, higher, more significant consequences for my actions. So another way to put this is, in Proverbs, folly is not a squishy concept. It's a hard, concrete reality. It's as real as dollars. It's as real as gravity. It's as real as calories. If you keep doing what you're doing with dollars, certain things are going to happen to you. If you keep doing what you're doing, ignoring gravity, certain things are going to happen to you. If you keep ignoring calories, certain things are going to happen to you because those things are real. Folly is real. So I made an error once. I was a very young pastor of, how old was I? I don't even want to know. I don't want to go back that far. I was in my late 20s, and I heard about this church on the outskirts of Salem, Oregon, that was about to close because the pastor had been caught in immorality with a young girl, and it had destroyed the church internally and externally. The church was down to 4 people. A guy, his wife, his mother, and their friend, and that was the church. But I looked at this area in Salem, and I thought, Salem is moving out here. This was kind of at one time was a little country church built on this old post and pier foundation, kind of a building sort of rotting on its frame, looked kind of like a barn and in bad shape, but Salem was moving out to this church. And you could see what kinds of neighborhoods were being built around this church and what kinds of businesses and restaurants and services were going to be out here in this new district of Salem as this area changed. And so I gathered up a group of about 12 people and said, let's restart this church. And so this guy, the big question was, can I work with him? This man, not to put too fine a point on it, was a liar. And what's worse is that in discussing this church, its history, its present, what its future might be, I observed that he was a liar. I observed that there were several moments where what he just said is not true. It's not like a howler. It's not like he was saying monumentally bad things. It was just a little off. But it was enough off for me to have observed, and I did observe, that was not true. He knew it was not true, but he said it anyway. Now, here's the thing about folly. Folly always says something like, I can handle it. I can deal with that. We can contain that. Because what we're trying to do here is so big, it's so important, it's so good that, we'll just trust God with this guy. So I did. I brought in 12 people, and we made common cause with a man who I had observed multiple times in lies. One of the things he told me was that, I asked him about how is this church governed? He said, well, there's this old constitution, but we haven't been enforcing this constitution in years. It's just gathering dust, and we really need to write a new one. And so one of the things we did was we started the process of writing a new constitution. And so here we are, engaged in this work, and I have just committed myself to a project on a very flawed foundation. Good goals, good motivations. I knew why I was doing it. I was trusting God. But I had made a decision to be a partner with a man I knew had a problem telling the truth. If you have been foolish, exalting yourself, that's what the fool does. The fool says, I've got something here that is so great, it's going to make a big difference in the world. If you've been foolish, exalting yourself, put your hand on your mouth. Here's another one. It's not just folly. If you have been foolish, exalting yourself, or if you have been devising evil. Now, evil is also a big theme in the book of Proverbs. It's on the very first pages, and it runs all the way to the end. Evil is this fallen world that we're all contending with. This world that's given over to death, to lies, to the fantasies of ambition and covetousness, greed, and all of these things that lead people to do the things that they do. So Proverbs, in many ways, is preoccupied with evil. What do you do with evil? How do you live a righteous life in a world that is evil? Because it just looks like you're going to get rolled over again and again and again. Now, Felipe read for us something very important out of Proverbs chapter 6. So turn back there to verses 16 through 19. Let's look at these very important words and rather famous words here, because they describe evil. Evil in Proverbs is not a squishy concept. It's concrete, it's real. It's as real as gravity, dollars, and calories. If you keep doing what you're doing with evil, things are going to start happening to you. That's the way the world works, and God designed it to work this way. So here are 6 things, verse 16 of Proverbs 6. There are 6 things that the Lord hates. Who is the Lord? He's Yahweh, the I Am. He's the promise keeper of Israel. He's the one who redeems Israel out of slavery and sin and evil. There are 6 things that Yahweh hates. Now think about that word, hates. I just want to propose this idea to you. I want you to think about it. Because in our society, hate, universally a bad thing. Don't hate anything. Proverbs is coming at us in this blast of hot reality and saying, Yahweh, the promise-keeping God of Israel, has hatred. He hates evil things. Here are 6 of them. No, 7. And why do we bump it up to 7? Because 7 is this symbolic number of kind of completeness. You want the whole picture of what Yahweh hates? Here it is. 7 are an abomination to him. Oh, that word abomination. Another one of these words that we don't say without irony anymore. Abomination is when you open up a jar from the fridge and the smell of decaying food hits your nostrils. Abomination. What do? You take it straight to the trash. Ugh. Your stomach starts doing stuff and you start making noises and you run to the trash. We're going to get rid of this. Abomination. Haughty eyes. Oops. How many of our interactions feature haughtiness? Haughty eyes. Elevated, superior, all of those things. Haughtiness. A lying tongue. Thing number 2. So a tongue that is constantly saying things that are not true. Oh, wait, that's like the guy that I said I could handle. That's like the guy who kept saying things that weren't true, and I observed it, and I said, my project here is so great that it's going to overcome this. Yahweh looks at that, and he hates the lying. Thing number 3, hands that shed innocent blood. That's murder. A heart that devises wicked plans. That's somebody who's sitting there saying, let's see, if I manipulate this person this way and I manipulate this other person this opposite way, I can get what I want out of the confusion. A heart that devises wicked plans. Here's another one. Feet that make haste to run to evil. This passage is designed for memorization because it covers your body parts. Eyes, your tongue, hands, heart, feet. And what are the feet doing? They're running to evil. They're making haste to accomplish evil plans. Hurry up, we've got this great scheme for you. A false witness who breathes out lies. So this is somebody in a public situation. This is different from the lying tongue in private. This is now somebody who takes an oath in court or gives testimony in a public hearing or a public inspector or somebody trying to deceive a public inspector. This is a public action, a legal action. A false witness who breathes out lies. Every breath they take and every breath they exhale is a lie, and it's going out into the community, and it's distorting the business that people do with each other. And then it sums up here, one who sows discord among brothers. Somebody who is constantly stirring the pot and keeping people in disagreement with each other. Evil. Notice how intensively this goes into our hearts. It comes out of our eyes. It comes off our tongue. It's what we live and breathe. Notice how intensively relational this is. This is our quality of life with our friends and our family. It affects whole communities. Evil. So evil here in Proverbs is a concrete, real thing. Proverbs 30 again. If you've been foolish, exalting yourself, or if you have been devising evil, put your hand on your mouth. What are we doing here? We're looking inside ourselves. We're asking some very difficult questions about our motivations. And Proverbs 6 is calling out all sorts of things inside of us and saying, are you doing those things? Are you harboring these things? Have you harbored them in your past and you're trying to escape them? So this guy kept telling his lies in my new church. I'm partners with him, and I'm trying to write a constitution with him, and there are a couple of other elders who are trying to shepherd the flock with him because he's an elder. And here we are trying to do the work that God called us to do. And, it's great. Within weeks, the church has grown to 60 people. More than that on Sunday evening. Morning and evening, we were meeting in this neighborhood, and you could see people driving down the hill. It was situated on one of the major cutoffs between two big roads. And so people would drive down this hill, used to seeing an empty parking lot. And they would come down the hill. You could watch them on Sunday morning where the parking lot is full. There are no more spaces to park. You could see the brake lights hit and people rubbernecking. You see, what's going on there? What happened there? Oh, this is great stuff. The Lord is at work, and so is the liar. This great thing is built on a foundation of partnering with a guy. I saw it. I knew it. He had a problem telling the truth. I thought I could handle it. So what starts to happen? Disagreements, evil things, malice, suspicion, all of this kind of backbiting, all of the stuff that we love about churches. It all starts to just starts to fester. And it seems like it's whack-a-mole. If I get it over here, it just pops up over there. And so I hit it over there, and it pops up over here. And what's the source? A guy who's telling lies. You can take 100 good people, put them in a community together. One liar will destroy it all of it. Because by the end of it, those 100 people will no longer trust each other because of all the things the liar has said. Evil. You take a good, trusting community, you break it apart by sowing discord among brothers. What have you got? Well, you've got something that looks, I don't know, seems like it looks an awful lot like our nation today. Where we're so busted up into factions and we so distrust everyone that we even wonder, is there any way forward for us as a country? That's what happens when we make partnerships that are founded on folly and lies, like I did. Here's another one, verse 33. If you've been foolish, exalting yourself, or if you've been devising evil, put your hand on your mouth. Stop talking. Stop yourself from doing anything more of this kind of folly and evil. Just quit cold turkey. Look at what you're doing. And why should you do that? Here's the reason. For pressing milk produces curds. Is that true? And not exactly. Yeah, it's our dairyman. But I think if you agitate that milk enough, you're gonna. Yeah. Okay. Biology. So all you got to do is keep doing what you're doing, and there are going to be results. All you got to do is keep pressing that nose, and blood is going to come out. That's all you got to do. Just keep doing what you're doing. And anger is like that. Pressing anger produces strife. It's a law. You put that folly of agitating anger and continuing to press it, strife is going to result. That's how the world works. So that's why we should stop. Stop doing the things that led to that strife. So the strife reached such a point in this church that this guy called a meeting. And, it's kind of tough when your church goes from 4 people to 60 and you can't control everything anymore. You've got to deal with all of these other people, and all of a sudden, you can't just, it won't all fit in your hands anymore. And it doesn't take too many people before it gets out of control for somebody who's used to that. And so he calls a meeting. You know what he did? He pulled out the Constitution that he said was defunct and had not been enforced for years, and used that as his justification to fire me. I can handle it. I saw that he lied to those people over there, but it was small stuff, small potatoes. He needs a little help. That's all. And I can give him that help. I can handle it when he does the same thing to 5 people. I can take care of that. Yeah, it's whack-a-mole, it's a lot of work, and I'm going around putting out fires, but I can handle it. What about when he lies to me? See, that's always going to happen. When you make common cause with somebody who lies to others, that person will lie to you. Now, here's why I'm telling you this story. Because when you get done with a situation like that, you kind of need the gospel again. You need to recover some hope that God is in his ministry and that he still has a role for you, a path forward for you after this thing just completely fell apart. So in the months after all of this fell apart, and it did fall apart, and in the time that I was looking for another ministry and trying to make sense of this and talking with my counselors and mentors in ministry and unpacking everything that had gone wrong, I did something very important, and I did it consciously. I read through the book of Proverbs again. And as I read through that book, an amazing thing started to happen. This book started to tell me everything that I'd done wrong. It became my counselor. It said, you see this that it says about liars here? You saw that, and you said it was going to be fine. See this over here, what it said about strife and all of the evil that results from lying and making partnership with liars. You saw that. You even knew this proverb. Actually, son, you memorized this proverb, but you didn't apply it. So here we are, running along through the book of Proverbs, and I'm looking at it, and it's telling me everything that I have done wrong. And you get here to Proverbs 30, verses 32 and 33, and what do you think I did? Well, I had a pretty strong case that it was everybody else's fault, right? I mean, it was God's work. He was sinning against God, wasn't he? Everything that he did against me was against the Lord's work, because me and the Lord's work, we're like this. And he lied to me. Can you believe it? I mean, I could have made this case. But by the grace of God, I recognize something else in Proverbs, that there is tremendous hope if we come through a disaster and we tackle something like Proverbs 8, 32 to 36. Now, sons, listen to me. You got your Bible open to Proverbs. Son, listen. Take it in. Blessed are those who keep my ways. Hear instruction and be wise. Do not neglect it. There's a future for you. There's something ahead of you. It's something that God has for you down the road. And if you make course corrections, if you make these decisions right here, looking into yourself, dispersing that fog over your motivations and just calling it what it is, folly and evil, Confess it. Hear instruction and be wise. Do not neglect it. Blessed is the one who listens to me, watching daily at my gates, waiting beside my doors. Believe me, I was watching and waiting. I wanted to know what happened here. God told me. He didn't tell me through some vision or some dream or some word from the Lord. He told me through this guy right here, the book of Proverbs. Whoever finds me finds life and obtains favor from the Lord. But he who fails to find me injures himself. Got it. Yeah, I saw that. And all who hate me love death. So I blow the fog out of your motivations and I show you the folly that was there. You look at it and you hate it. And you want the fog back. You want to cover up all the stuff that you participated in. You want this shroud over everything that you did. You want your rationalizations back. You want to leave yourself intact at the end of this experience. Wisdom says, you hate me and you love death. You're on your way to die. But if you embrace this, you find life. Here are two things from all of this. You want to make good decisions. You have to look inside yourself at your motivations. And you got to get rid of the serial sincerity. All of the morphing of what you did and why, all the stories you tell yourself, all the rationalizations. Deny them. Just haul them out and say, Lord, I did this. I made this decision. I made a partnership with a guy I saw telling lies. I did it because I was exalting myself and thought I could handle it. I did that. It was nobody else's fault. It was my fault. I did that. Now, I'm not responsible for his lies. I didn't tell lies myself. But I did this foolish, destructive thing. Secondly, accept pardon. You obtain favor from the Lord. That's grace. When you're sitting at the gates of wisdom, you're listening, you're taking it in, and you're saying, yep, that's me. I did those things. Then you obtain this grace from the Lord that says, you are forgiven. You're free. You are released from this debt. And there's a future for you. There's a future of blessing for you. And I can tell you that there has been a future of blessing. Within months, the Lord led Bridget and I to a new ministry in California. It was not a restart of the kind that we were attempting. It was a church led by solid, though flawed people, with lots of other solid but flawed people. And the Lord showed me some wisdom how to lead in the next season. And it was a season of blessing, 12 years of blessing in a hard place through a hard season, but the Lord did good through it. And that good started with me saying, yep, that's who I am. I am the fool of Proverbs 30:32. And I put my hand on my mouth, confessed my sins, made changes. Among the changes that I have made, and by the grace of God have held to, I have learned not to participate in anyone else's sins or make partnership with them. I have learned that God can do gracious things in people's lives, But one of the things that is my role in that situation is to say, you can do what you're going to do, you can make the decision you need to make, but I can't go with you down that path. And I won't lead the church to go with you down that path. You're on that path by yourself, not with us. That moment where someone realizes, okay, you're not coming with me. You're actually staying put. You're not going with me in the place I want to go. That is a crucial moment in people's lives where they can decide, am I going to look at wisdom and hate it, or am I going to follow the way of life? And so I have seen the wisdom of God come out of folly, be redeemed out of folly, and grow and multiply and adapt to new situations. And in all of these things, we just say, blessed be the name of the Lord, because He did this. We did not. And I would commend to you this practice of confession of sin, repentance, and acknowledging the wisdom of God about the fog inside you. Your decisions will be stronger as a result of this.